Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is
Thumbs
to
up.
ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. She stood with smoke in her eyes. Nothing could ever get in her way. Like a raven that flies in the sky.
Brandon Morningstar with Bending Reality Magazine. Today I'm talking to artist Kat Marco. Kat, say hi to everybody, please.
Hey, you.
Uh, I yes. Kat is a great musician, folks, and I think when you hear her music in my shows, you'll be captivated. Just saying, her music is pretty awesome.
That makes me feel good to hear you say that.
Well, I try not to endorse music that wouldn't appeal. Not I I try to endorse. I should say I try to endorse music that I know the audience will just respond to. And yes, so my first question for you, Kat, is tell me a little bit about your musical background.
Okay, well, I started loving the day I was born. It was kind of tricky because my family was a country family, and I didn't like that kind of music, so they were always fighting me about my rock and roll. They didn't want me to listen to that, but I would just sneak off and listen to it anyway. So I started out just loving music and listening to the top 40 and loving it all, you know. And then, of course, to sing off the bat. That was my first thing. So I decided I was going to write songs of my own and learn to do music myself. So I went ahead, and by the time I was 18 and 19, I was very serious about it.
Hmm.
And I guess I could say I started working hard at it in 1978, but mainly the big kickoff was the first song I ever wrote was 1981. And what I loved at that time was Pat Benatar, Iron Maiden, bands like that. I was into the rock. I loved Heart too for chicks and rock. You know, they made me excited. You know, and Pat
Hmm.
Benatar, but I like the Scorpions and all of those kind of bands. So my first stuff kind of sounded like that. In fact, the first recording I ever made, people said I sounded too much like Pat Benatar on, and then we only needed one Pat Benatar, and that having a Kat Marco would be cool. So I had to learn to do something original.
Hmm.
And since then, I've tried my best to not follow another pattern of an artist, but just do my own thing. So and that's where I've been all these years.
Okay, so would you say Heart is a strong influence for you, musically speaking?
Well, definitely, but I was way more into the Pat Benatar sound.
Okay.
So that was more of an influence. And it wasn't so much the instrumentation, but I just loved the way Pat Benatar sang. But Iron Maiden was much more of the musical influence for me.
Okay. So Pat Benatar and Iron Maiden. That's an interesting combination. You got the Pat Benatar's, like you said, vocal style, and then Iron Maiden's instrumental style. That could be an interesting combination.
I always thought it was. And then, of course, you know, I fell in love with Yngwie Malmsteen when he came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so at this stage, I'd have to say that I have more influence from Yngwie Malmsteen than I did from Iron Maiden. I kind of skipped over and went to that to the neoclassical sound. And I'm not going to say that that's how my music sounds. My music sounds just kind of straightforward rock and metal. But I really wanted to go in that vein. And so I'm a big Nightwish fan, you know, and symphonic metal, stuff like that. I love that time.
Okay. What would you say what would you say inspires most of your lyrics?
Well, I always wanted to write something in my songs that was positive and hopeful. And I'm going to get onto the God thing here real quick, and I'll get off it. But when I first started writing songs, I made a deal with God. You know, it was like I was at the crossroads, and I told him I would make sure he approved of every song I ever wrote. So I would have to see God as a main influence. But it's not like I sing about God in all my songs. I sing about life and about friends, about loved ones. I can sing about a pet. But as long as it's positive and hopeful and good, then I'm cool with it.
And I definitely picked up on that. A lot of positive energies coming out of your music.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it came across.
Um, if you had to pick out one thing to say to an aspiring musician that is lacking drive or inspiration, what would you say to boost their spirit?
Well, first of all, I have to really probe into the fact that that is really what they want to do. And if it is, I would say to them, just do something every day towards it. Like, even if you sit on your couch and play, you know, with your guitar, it doesn't even have to be anything serious. Just fool around and noodle around on it. Just make it part of your everyday life and put it as a part of you and put you into your music. That would be, for me, the best suggestion. And that's what I told myself a long time ago.
Okay, this is the end of segment 1, so we're going to go into segment 2 now. Do you prefer playing in clubs, or have you had the opportunity to play with any of your heroes over the years?
Well, I have played with some of my heroes, and when I first got started, I was playing in clubs a lot. But I really was serious about my original music, and to be honest with you, I have not got the chance to play live as much as I wanted to, and that is yet to come, because I'm not going to not do that. I will get out and tour, but I spent primarily most of my time working on originals and recording them and getting them out there. And, I played with some people. I mentioned before to you that I got to jam with Michael Schenker one night for a couple of hours, and that was one of my great times. And I also took some guitar lessons from Paul Chapman. But one of my big coups is when I recorded Maiden Voyage in the early 90s at Morris Sound Recordings in Tampa. At the time, Morris Sound was the heavy metal recording studio of the world, and Jim and Tom Morris were the best engineers. So I went there because I knew I could get my sound. I heard what they were doing, and I knew I could get it. So I went there, and I got lucky, and I got to hire Jeff Berlin to come in and play for me. Wow, I was so excited about that because he had just got a tour with Yes. So he played on those 3 songs, Rebel Renegade, Alone at Midnight, and a song called To Touch Your Face. And that was awesome because the man is the man on bass. Seriously. I mean, I just learned so much just by spending that time with him in the studio. But I learned more from Tom Morris. Those guys are musicians, and they were incredible. What was really cool about them is they said, we want you to do what your dream is. And so we're not going to step on what you want to do. We're going to work with you and get your sound out so that later on you'll be happy. And Jeff Berlin had the same motto, and when he came in, he just ripped out for me. And check this out. This is really cool. Right after he played for me, he went to California or something and cut a record with K.D. Lang. Because he's so multifaceted. You know, he can play any style, even though he's a jazz bassist. He can be style. Go from heavy metal to country in like 2 days, you know?
Right. Okay. What have you ever done any covers that you enjoy more than others?
I have a handful of covers, and I had them out on my website for a long time. And one was Barracuda. I did a heavy version of Barracuda. And I did Fighter. This is an odd one for me, but I rocked it out. I did Fighter by Christina Aguilera. Let me think here. Oh, of course, I have a cover of the national anthem. And there's a couple more. I haven't been able to put them out now because, the places that I have my music, they won't allow me to do anything that I didn't write myself.
Uh-huh.
I've had them, I've just had to take them off the internet for now. But I'd like to get them back out there because I think I did a pretty good job on them. So there's about 5 covers I did. I'm not remembering the other 2 right off the bat because it's been quite a few years since I even looked at them or listened to them.
Uh-huh.
But hey, I have no problem doing covers, and I have no problem playing other people's stuff if they want me to. So I work with a lot of other musicians, and I try to do my best to put them into my music as much as I possibly can. So I'm proud to do stuff that other people have done. In fact, I just recorded a song, the newest one. I just put it out a couple days ago, actually, and it's already number 2 on the metal. No, it's number 3. I'm sorry. I told you earlier today I have 3 songs on the top 5 on the metal chart from SoundCloud, and the one I just put out a couple days ago is at number 3.
That's
Well,
awesome.
it is awesome. Well, what happened with that is I ran across this guitarist on SoundCloud named Oliver Torfs, and he lives in Germany. When he had been on my SoundCloud page, so I went to check his music out. And wow, I loved it so much. So I asked him, I go, do you mind if I cop some of your licks? I said, I'll give you credit. He goes, sure, that'd be great. So it was exciting. I learned some of his rhythms and some of the lead licks inside the rhythms, and that's primarily the rhythm guitar part for On Fire For You. And so I'll do things like that. I'll ask first. I'll always ask. And I've sampled, I have a song called Look to Me, and I sampled Rock You Like a Hurricane by the Scorpions. But I give them credit, and I asked them if they didn't mind I did that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I don't just rip people off blindly. I make sure they don't mind if I rip them off.
That's good to know you don't have that killer gypsy instinct to just take it and run.
That's right, yeah. I just ask and then take, as long as you say yes.
Right.
It makes
Okay.
me better. Yeah, it helps me develop my chops, and it helps me to kind of keep always moving in a different direction, not stagnating, in one spot.
Okay. This is the end of segment 2. We're going to start segment 3 now. If a major label executive would come knocking on your door someday and ask you, what would you say to convince me to sign you to that big deal? What would you say your response would be to that question?
Well, I would first tell them that it's the real deal. This is who I am. It's my music. I've got 100 songs out. That's plenty. We got enough for a lot of records. We could put out a whole lifetime worth of records. And I would say, first I'd fall down on the ground, and then after I picked myself up, I would regain my composure, and then I would tell them, yeah, and I can prove to you by just seeing what I have that I have more in me. In fact, I have a ton of songs I haven't recorded yet, so that's rock and roll. And hopefully they'd sign me because I've always wanted to get help from a label. Yeah, that'd make me really happy.
Uh-huh.
So far, I've had to do everything by myself.
And I can tell you, again, that I really enjoy your music, and I'm eager to hear more of it when it comes out to be released.
Well, thank you.
Um, my next question is, when you've had the opportunity to play at smaller venues, how would you say the audience fed off your energy?
Well, okay, I will tell you about this one time. This will give you a good example of that perfect answer for that.
Okay.
This was into the early 90s. I was working at a place trying to make some extra cash where the man that owned this place had a club. And some people rented it, and they were going to have a battle of the bands, and they asked me if I would play in this battle of the bands, and I said, no, I don't compete. I'm competing against other bands, but I'll play just some songs, and as long as you tell everybody I'm not competing. And so they agreed to do that, and my brothers, two of my brothers, I have six, two of them went with me, and that was exciting because they never really had paid any attention to my music before. And I got there. My brother Bud stayed with me backstage while I warmed up, and I just stayed warming up the whole time. And my brother Brian was out in the audience. And when they called me to go on stage, I went out there and I played by myself, by the way, with my BC Rich and my vocals. And it was exciting, but I made some mistakes. It wasn't like I was doing anything perfect, but the crowd just really loved it. And so the more they loved it, the more I played, and the better I got, and the more powerful I got. So I played about maybe 5 or 6 songs, and then it was time for me to get off. When I walked off that stage and went backstage, the door flew open, and the entire club crammed in there. And my brother Bud was leading the pack, and he grabbed me, and he picked me up, and he put me upside the wall, and he says, I went in on this. And my brother Brian came pushing his way through the crowd, and he goes, Kathleen, I don't know what happened, but when you were up there playing, I just went to everybody, that's my sister. That's my sister. And I was like, oh, wow. I was so overwhelmed. I was just shaking, right? And all these people were there, and I still had to get my equipment off the stage. And so I had this roadie from hell, excuse my language, come and help me. I said, I need to get all that stuff off the stage. Help me. And so she helped me, and we got all my stuff packed. We put it in the car, and I told my brothers, get me out of here. There is too many people. And they went, oh, you love it. I go, yeah, but not like this. And so they whisked me out of there, and we went to a bar and got us a pitcher of beer so we could celebrate. And my brother Bud, he says, you know what, Kathleen? I'm gonna loan you $10,000 right now. And I want you to put a CD out of some of this music that you played today. And that was like, wow, to make $10,000 like that in one night, And it was my brother, and he was a country man. I mean, total country. He told me, I like your music, and I don't even like music. That was a pretty good compliment. And so I took that $10,000, and I put out my first CD, a song called Sleeping Beauty. And I did with it. I got it on the radio, and I worked with Bill Jerome, who's this huge radio promoter that broke Paula Abdul and people like that. He worked with Keith Richards and etc. And it was exciting, It was thrilling. That night is the best example of how that energy was. But I want to add this last thing, and I'll get off it. But I've always felt all these years that the best lick I have is playing live because of that energy. Yeah, people really, I play for people. Anytime anybody walks through my door, they get played for. It's just the way it goes. Right. And I always, that comment, they always say, wow, that was just exhilarating. They'll light their lighters in my living room. Okay, I think I've answered that question pretty good, huh?
Yeah, you have. Okay. What does a pre-show ritual look like for you? Other than the tuning up and everything.
Definitely warming up my vocals and keeping my chops up. I'd just be doing a bunch of scales and modes and stuff like that to keep my fingers good so that when I took the stage, I felt really warmed up. That's the best way to have confidence playing is to know your chops are there. And, chops can come and go in the course of the day. I mean, if you're not in the mood, you're not going to play good. So, and if you're not warmed up, you're not going to play good. So I would work on that. And, of course, I want to throw this in. I always think it's important, even before I rehearse, just by myself, to be clean, take a shower, and put something kind of nice on. It doesn't have to be stage gear, but it could be off-stage type gear, and feel good about yourself. And I did not come by that accidentally. I was taught that by Jim Stone. And Jim Stone was the man that put Stone Ponies together with Linda Ronstadt way back in the 60s. You know, when Linda Ronstadt first came out?
Yeah.
And the Ponies? Well, Jim Stone was the man that put that band together, and he was a friend of mine. I have not spoken to him for about 10 years, but we were hanging out for a couple of years, and he taught me that. And it made a difference. He said, always before you rehearse, take a shower and put something nice and clean on and feel good about it. So I thought that was a great thing, so I follow that motto all the time.
Okay.
Even now, today, before I got on the phone with you, I got dressed sort of in some cool pants and a nice rock and roll shirt. Got my hair all rocked out. So even though you can't see me, I'm still rocked out, baby.
Check. Okay. In the modern scene now, you've mentioned Pat Benatar and Iron Maiden of early influences. Are there any bands out there now that inspire you or like influence you in any way?
Yes. Oh my God. I never expected this, but I fell in love with Slipknot. And, you know, I was kind of confused about them at first, and I didn't know that they had such a variety of sounds. I thought they were just one sound, a death metal sound, and so I got one of their CDs from when I flopped it. But in the course of time over the last few years, I've been accidentally tripped on some songs, and I go, oh my God, I'll listen to the song like 50 times, you know, and love it so much. And then I'll find out it's Slipknot. And this keeps happening. So I have to say, I really love that band.
Okay.
There's other bands, you know, like Evanescence. I was really excited when they came out. In fact, the day their CD hit, I was at the store buying it, and check this out. I went in there, I went to Walmart. I went in there and got my Evanescence CD. And when I was going out to my car, this other dude was walking in his car right next to me, and I don't know why, I just thought I had to blurt this out. I go, yeah, I just got the new Evanescence CD. I'm so excited. And he goes, yeah, I just got it too.
And this was the Fallen album, I'm assuming?
Yes. And isn't that exciting, though? And we were parked right next to each other.
Okay.
Yeah, and I learned that whole record. I used to rehearse to that for a long time, but I would always sing it all open throat instead of in a falsetto. I usually sing open throat mostly because I think it's more of a natural sounding voice. So, but I love that, you know, and wow. And there's others. Of course, I already told you how much I love Nightwish. I love the bass player. I think the bass player is awesome because he sings so cool. He sings great metal, and he plays, and he's got such great stage presence. And he can swirl his hair around when he plays.
Okay. Since you mentioned Corey Taylor and Amy Lee, if you had the chance to collaborate with them, what would you want to bring to the table?
Wow, that would be tough because I'd be so in awe of their talent. But I really do think I probably could. And that would be, well, if I was working with him, it would be the way I sing and play. I think it would fit in. I really do. I think that I could work with him and other people in that genre. You know, even though I have my own sound, and I wouldn't classify it as symphonic metal, but I do think that I could do a good job, you know, and my lyrics and stuff. I can be kind of ethereal, too. Yeah. If need be, I can...
I was just about to ask you if you had to put your stuff in one or two genres of rock and or metal, what would they be?
Well, at this stage, I'm pushing my music in the metal area more, but there's a reason for that. I've found that at this stage of the game, rock is so widespread that there's a lot of music in the rock area that's not really rock. And so the reason I'm pushing myself in the metal is because in the metal area, it's all really hardcore, tried and true metal artists. And so I'm more comfortable putting my music in that area. But it easily fits into rock. And I have, in fact, on Spotify, I've got like 10 albums put out. I'll have one soft rock, one's all heavy guitar, one's love songs. I like to write about love. I'm a chick. I like to write about love, so I got a bunch of them. And so I would say that my style can range from soft rock all the way to not the heaviest of metal, but heavy metal.
Right.
Metal and heavy metal. So, yeah, I got a wide range there. But I'm just working metal, but I would have to say I'm rock. Because, I've been going by the goddess of rock for years. I'm definitely a rocker. And it would have to be, if I were to pin it down, I bet you most people as a whole would call me a rock artist.
Well, I would have to agree with that consensus opinion for sure.
Okay.
So,
I think a lot.
and this is the end of segment 3 and the end of the interview. So, Kat, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Renegade.